There is an invisible force between you and the life you desire, and it is not out there, in other people, in circumstances, or in the opportunities that seem to slip away. It lives within, in the subtle tension that arises when you try to control every detail, predict every step, guarantee every outcome. That urge to make things happen comes from the silent belief that if you don't hold on tight, everything will fall apart. But the paradox is that the harder you grip, the more life slips away. Control generates contraction, contraction creates noise, and the field does not respond to your request. It responds to the vibration of your fear. The universe doesn't read verbal intentions, it reads vibrational signatures. No matter how much the mind says, "I trust," if the body is on alert and the heart is in defense, the broadcast is one of insecurity. And the field, being neutral, simply reflects the signal it receives. It returns scenarios that confirm the lack of safety being felt, even when the words are positive. Thus, the mental effort to stay in control becomes a cycle of energetic self-sabotage. You emit the opposite of what you desire. Surrender, therefore, is not giving up. It is a frequency adjustment, a realignment between will and vibration. Conscious surrender is the moment when you release external control to reclaim inner command. Instead of forcing reality, you become available to the flow that is already in motion. You stop acting out of fear of losing and begin acting out of trust in being. In this state, coherence replaces effort. Mind, heart, and body no longer compete, they cooperate. Thought provides direction, emotion sustains the vibration, and the body anchors presence, three systems broadcasting the same signal. When that happens, the quantum field responds immediately. Synchronicities multiply, obstacles rearrange themselves, and what once felt like a blockage becomes a passage. Surrender is, therefore, a science of harmony. It is the point where the human meets the quantum, where biology aligns with consciousness. It is the instant in which tension dissolves and the energy once used for control is converted into pure magnetism. It is not about stopping action, it is about acting from stillness. It is within that living stillness that reality finally begins to respond, not to what you say, but to what you are. The impulse to control is born from fear, the fear that if you let go, something will go wrong. But that very fear is the obstacle disguised as protection. When you try to direct every detail, the energy that could flow freely becomes compressed, creating resistance in the field. Life, which is natural movement and continuous expansion, senses the tension signal and responds with more rigidity. It's like trying to push a river. The more force you apply, the stronger the current pushes back. Control sends a very clear vibrational message. It is not safe to trust. And the field, obedient, mirrors exactly that. Uncertain circumstances, indecisive people, blocked pathways. The external reality becomes a faithful reflection of the internal distrust. On a biological level, the body reads control as threat. The nervous system shifts into surveillance mode, releasing cortisol and adrenaline, keeping the organism in constant alert. That state of hyperattention may look like productivity, but it is merely survival in disguise. When the body is in fight or flight, the surrounding field registers a frequency of scarcity, and the natural flow of opportunities is interrupted. Nothing moves forward because the dominant vibration is one of effort. The mind believes it is in command, but in truth, fear is driving, and fear never creates, it only repeats the familiar. The paradox is this: the more you try to control, the less control you actually have, because control belongs to the domain of form, while flow is born in the domain of energy. Reality does not bend to rigidity, it organizes itself around trust, and it is precisely when you release external command that the universe begins to respond from the inside out. Surrender is not inertia, it is precision. It is when the ego finally goes silent so that higher consciousness can lead. It is the moment when the body relaxes, the heart slows down, and the field breathes with you. In that space, life stops being something to control and becomes something to feel. And feeling is the true command of creation. There are two silent laws that govern the blockage between you and flow. One is physiological, the other vibrational. They operate on different planes, but they dance in the same rhythm. The body feels, the field mirrors. Understanding these laws means realizing that control is not just a mental attitude, It is an energetic language that the universe reads effortlessly. Every time you try to force something to happen, it is as if you are telling your system, life is not trustworthy. And the body, loyal to the mind, responds like an obedient soldier. It tenses, watches, prepares for a war that hasn't even begun. Under the first law, the law of physiology, the body reads control as threat. The nervous system activates survival mode. Cortisol release, shallow breathing, accelerated heartbeat. Cells in defense mode close their receptors to renewal and creativity. In this state, the organism does not create. It only repeats. It does not open. It only protects itself. The quantum field around picks up this bioelectrical signature of alert and interprets. This person is not available for the new. The second is the law of the field, which responds not to words but to the vibration behind them. You may say, I trust, but if the body vibrates fear, the field recognizes fear as the dominant broadcast. Reality, being neutral, returns scenarios that confirm that frequency, delays, resistance, repetition. It's the same principle of resonance. Two different frequencies do not merge. They interfere, creating distortion. Control is that distortion, a mismatch between what is asked and what is felt. When mind and body disagree, the universe does not know which instruction to follow. The thought asks for expansion, the heart emits contraction, and the field, coherent with the sum, returns confusion. That is why manifestation does not consolidate. Even with effort, there is no alignment of signal. The background vibration, the emotional tone, is what decides which reality collapses. And if the tone is urgency, the field will keep echoing urgency, not fulfillment. The way out is not to fight these laws, it is to work with them. Regulate the body until it feels safe, and adjust the heart until it trusts. When the nervous system disarms and the feeling stabilizes, the field picks up the new signature and begins to reorganize. The result does not come from insistence, it comes from vibrational consistency. Biology and field, after all, are parts of the same orchestra. The maestro is your inner state. Every time you fight something, you strengthen it. This is one of the subtlest and most misunderstood laws of the quantum field. Whatever receives emotional focus gains energy, and what gains energy persists. When you resist a situation, person, or emotion, what you are truly doing is feeding the frequency of that experience. The attempt to fix becomes a vibrational agreement with the very problem. The mind believes it is trying to resolve it. The field simply hears, this is still important, keep it active. Resistance is therefore a form of reversed prayer. You don't need to consciously wish for the obstacle in order to sustain it. You just need to keep feeling its presence. Thinking about how to get out of this is still orbiting the same energetic point. The physics behind it is simple. Focus is a beam of light that collapses particles into form. By resisting, you're only lighting up the same pattern with more intensity, reinforcing its existence. On a biological level, that resistance generates decoherence. The mind wants to move forward, but the body vibrates in defense. The heart, split between desire and fear, enters dissonance, and the field reads it as instability. It's like trying to tune into two radio stations at once. The result is noise. And noise in the language of the universe means only one thing: wait until there is coherence. That's why unwanted situations seem to repeat in a loop. They don't return because the universe wants to test you. They return because your vibration is still broadcasting the same signal. The emotional insistence on fixing what shouldn't be happening keeps the experience alive. What is observed with tension cannot dissolve. What is observed with acceptance reorganizes itself. It's the same principle with particles. Neutral observation frees them. Anxious observation freezes them. Surrender, in this context, is not giving up. It is shifting the axis of attention. It is looking at the obstacle and saying, I see you, but I will not feed you. It is redirecting energy from resistance to presence. When you stop fighting against it, the field understands that pattern is no longer useful and allows it to disintegrate. In the moment you stop pushing, the universe can finally move for you. There's a point of equilibrium in every conscious creation, the point where doing dissolves into being. It is the place where intention gives shape to desire, and surrender creates space for the field to manifest it. Focus without surrender turns into control. Surrender without focus turns into dispersion. When these two forces meet, the result is alchemy, mind and heart in perfect sync, shaping reality through coherence, not through lack. Intention is the vector, it directs the field. It is the toward-where of energy. When you consciously choose what you wish to experience, you send a clear signal to the universe, like a laser cutting through noise. But that laser is only stable when it does not vibrate in fear. Desires sustained by anxiety become requests for confirmation, and the field does not respond to pleading, it responds to frequency. Surrender, on the other hand, is the space between the note and the silence. It is the moment when the universe breathes with you. When you release the outcome, the field can act. There is no room for synchronicity when the ego fills all the space with expectation. Surrender is living trust. I have directed the vector, now I allow the intelligence of the field to organize the path. This dance between focus and release is literal. The heart and the brain communicate through electromagnetic fields. Research from the HeartMath Institute shows that when you generate coherent emotions, gratitude, peace, love, the heart sends a stable signal to the brain. That signal creates physiological order and perceptual clarity. What used to be effort becomes precision. What used to be waiting becomes alignment. In practice, this means acting from inspiration, not reaction. You plant the seed with clear intention, but you don't dig up the soil every day to check if it is sprouting. Surrender is the invisible fertilizer. It keeps the field fertile, the vibration high, and the result inevitable. Alchemy is not about doing more. It's about sustaining the state of someone who already is. And when that state becomes natural, the universe simply responds. Yes, that's it. Imagine holding a delicate butterfly in the palm of your hand. If you close your fingers tightly, trying to ensure it won't fly away, you inevitably destroy what you were trying to protect. But if you open your palm, allowing air, space, and natural rhythm, it rests there not out of obligation, but out of resonance. Reality works the same way. What you try to control slips away. What you welcome and trust remains. This metaphor, simple yet precise, describes the vibrational principle of openness. Every time you force, tense, or demand, you send the field a frequency of scarcity. The universe does not interpret the gesture as determination. It reads it as fear disguised as effort. Conversely, when there is inner spaciousness, silence, deep breath, gratitude without demand, the field hears safety. And safety is the fertile soil where all things bloom. The butterfly is the symbol of sensitive outcome, of a manifestation that requires lightness to exist. The quantum field is a living organism. It responds to harmony, not to pressure. Just as a flower blooms at the right time without anxiety, conscious creation requires trust in the rhythm of the unseen. Rushing the unfolding is a sign that doubt is still present, and doubt creates friction, the opposite of coherence. In the body, the difference is tangible. Control tightens the chest, contracts the diaphragm, hardens the gaze. Openness softens the face, releases the breath, disarms the mind. The nervous system understands the signal and sends new chemical messages. We are safe, we can receive. In that instant, you shift from defense mode to creation mode. Letting the butterfly land is remembering that life is self-organizing. You don't need to make the wind blow, just adjust the sails. What is yours by resonance does not require force, it requires frequency. And the more you relax into the silent certainty of already being, the faster the universe moves to confirm what your body has already declared to be true. There is a precise moment when effort stops transforming and starts blocking. It's the point where you're still trying to make it work, but the field is already asking only for presence. The mind insists on solving, the body just wants to breathe. Life, in that instant, no longer demands force, it demands frequency. And the difference between fighting and aligning is exactly this. The warrior wants to defeat chaos. The creator wants to understand the rhythm. Struggle is born from the belief that something is wrong and must be corrected. But alignment understands that everything is already rearranging itself according to the vibration being sustained. When you try to fix what the field is still organizing, you interrupt the flow. Haste sends a signal of distrust. I don't believe the process works without me, and the universe, obedient to its broadcaster, returns experiences that reinforce that disbelief. Shifting the axis is simple and radical. Trade the question, how do I make this happen, for how can I be in coherence with what is already happening? That shift takes you out of control mode and places you into tuning mode. The body notices, the breath deepens, the mind begins to quiet, and in that silence, intuition speaks again. Alignment is not inertia, it is movement without friction. It's when your actions arise naturally from your inner state, without effort or hesitation. You don't need to push life, only walk in its rhythm. Coherence generates efficiency. Less energy spent, more precision in every move. It's what masters call inspired action, and physics calls harmonic resonance. When you live from that place, the difference is perceptible. Time slows down, opportunities seem to arrive early, and the right people appear with ease. It's not luck, it's resonance. Reality responds because you stopped opposing it. And when the fight ceases, the universe finally has room to align with you, instead of against you. The impulse to fix yourself is one of the subtlest mechanisms of self-sabotage. It's born from the silent assumption that something in you is broken, and that belief, kept on loop, vibrates the very opposite of the wholeness you seek. When you see yourself always under repair, the field interprets, this identity is one of lack. And since the universe responds to broadcast, not intention, it continues to deliver experiences that confirm the absence. The fixing cycle works like this. First comes the feeling of insufficiency, then the frantic search for techniques, books, courses, therapies, or methods, all with the best intentions, but powered by a misaligned vibrational engine, the fear of not being enough. The result is an accumulation of knowledge that never turns into wisdom, because the underlying energy is still scarcity. The search, instead of liberating, becomes spiritual distraction. What breaks the cycle is not more information, but radical presence. It is stopping the attempt to solve the problem and beginning to observe the very movement that creates the problem. That simple act of witnessing without judgment dissolves the narrative that sustains the character who believes they need fixing. It is the moment the observer awakens and the pattern, stripped of emotional energy, falls apart. Physically, this is pure neuroscience. Every time you observe a thought or emotion without reacting, the brain stops reinforcing the old neural circuit. The energy that once fueled repetition turns into space for new connections, space for the new. The coherence that emerges from that silence is not passivity, it is vibrational updating. It is the body learning that it is already safe, already enough, already able to create from wholeness. When you stop trying to fix yourself, the field understands that integrity is the new normal. What was effort becomes flow. What was seeking becomes presence. Life responds with situations that confirm this new identity, not of someone who is healing, but of someone who is already whole. And it is in that instant that the quantum miracle happens. What you were trying to fix finally ceases to exist. Surrender is not giving up, it is changing the inner tone of the one who leads. When you release control, the body understands it can trust. Air begins to circulate again, the chest opens, and the mind, once in defense mode, starts listening to the field once more. It is in that instant that life finds space to move again. True surrender happens in the body before it happens in the mind. Take a deep breath. Inhale to the count of 5, hold for 2, and exhale slowly for 6. Do this 3 times without rushing. This simple, almost trivial sequence changes the chemistry of your blood, deactivates the nervous system's alarm, and opens the internal space where intuition can manifest. Control requires tense air. Surrender is born from air that flows. Now place your hand over your heart. Feel the warmth, the weight, the pulse. Bring to mind something you are genuinely grateful for, not something grand, but real. A smile, a warm cup of coffee, a moment of rest. Stay there for 2 minutes, breathing inside that sensation. This is the point where mind and body meet. Here, the field begins to respond. Ask yourself sincerely, what in me is still trying to hold on? Don't seek the answer in words. Feel it. Notice if there's tension in your shoulders, your jaw, your abdomen. Release a little, just 5%. That minimal gesture is a vibrational command. It says, I am safe now, and the field understands. Finally, act as if you are already in the desired state. Speak like someone who trusts, move like someone who belongs, choose like someone who has already arrived. This is not pretending, it is energetic training. Each coherent gesture is a reminder to the body that the new is already real. When the body believes, reality follows. That is surrender, breathing until the body remembers the safety the mind forgot. When you stop fighting the flow, it begins to carry you, and in the moment control yields, the invisible starts working. Silent, precise, inevitable. Once the new state is born, the old one tries to call you back. It whispers through habits, familiar voices, urgencies disguised as important tasks. The body, accustomed to vibrating in tension, searches for the old frequency like someone seeking familiar shelter. It is at this point that many mistake relapse for failure. But it is only the echo of the former field testing your vibrational loyalty. Being faithful to a new frequency doesn't require rigidity. It requires remembrance. Remembering what the body felt when it was in coherence. Remembering the silence the mind found between thoughts. Remembering the lightness that arose when you stopped holding everything together. That remembrance is the anchor that prevents you from slipping back into noise. It is the act of remaining in the new, even when the world still looks like the old. In the early days, the test comes in microforms, a message that activates the reflex of urgency, a criticism that invites the ego to justify itself, an unexpected event that tries to reignite fear. That is where loyalty is proven. Breathe before responding. Return to the body. If the chest opens, you are still aligned. If it closes, pause, breathe, and begin again. Alignment is never lost. It only fades when forgotten. Being faithful to the new state is saying no to anything that reignites the vibration of lack, even when the world calls it responsibility. It is protecting your field like someone safeguards a newly planted seed. Speaking less about the process and acting more from what already is. The new self doesn't need to explain, it radiates. With time, the old stops calling because it no longer finds someone to answer. The body memorizes the new frequency as rest, and the mind learns to trust silence as guidance. Vibrational loyalty is this: remaining whole when the old collapses, remaining calm when the new is still invisible. And suddenly, the invisible becomes your everyday reality. Stillness is not the absence of movement, it is movement without resistance. When the body, mind, and heart enter coherence, a different kind of action arises. Silent on the outside, immense on the inside. It is like the deep current of a river, unseen on the surface, yet strong enough to reshape the banks. That is the rhythm of natural creation, effortless yet full of direction. The mind accustomed to effort finds silence strange. It believes that stopping is wasting time, that rest is distraction. But stillness does not paralyze, it recalibrates. It is within that space of pause that higher intelligence rearranges the pieces that control had scrambled. Everything that seems still is, in truth, being repositioned with invisible precision. Surrender is not folding your arms. It is lowering your defenses. It is planting with intention and letting the field germinate. It is acting when the impulse comes clean, without anxiety, and waiting when the mind wants to rush. It is knowing that every pause carries a purpose, that silence is also a verb. In the quantum realm, the greatest transformations happen precisely when it seems like nothing is happening. When you anchor yourself in this kind of stillness, time reorganizes itself. What was urgent loses strength, what is essential gains clarity. Life stops being a sequence of tasks and becomes a field of response. The right opportunities appear not because you hunted them down, but because you became visible to them. The field recognizes those who vibrate in the right rhythm. In the end, stillness is the sound of trust. It is the body saying, "I trust the timing of life." It is the soul whispering, "It is already done." It is the mind learning to be a witness instead of a commander. When control quiets, the flow reveals itself. And when the flow takes over, life begins to move through you, with less noise, more precision, and the quiet beauty of someone who no longer needs to prove anything in order to exist. Surrender is not giving up. It is vibrational wisdom. It is when you understand that control does not guarantee safety, it only prolongs the noise. True power is born in the moment when the body relaxes, the mind quiets, and the heart takes command. In that state, the field does not need to be convinced, it simply responds. Life has always been willing to cooperate, but you must speak its language, and that language is coherence. When thought, emotion, and action align, The universe has no choice but to reflect that alignment. Effort becomes rhythm, seeking becomes presence, desire becomes a stable frequency. What once required struggle now arrives naturally. Being loyal to a new vibration is a silent act of courage. It is remaining in peace even when the old still tries to call you back. It is trusting the unseen enough not to rush. And when you sustain that trust, something shifts in the geometry of your life. The right people arrive, time stretches, coincidences multiply. The field recognizes the one who has finally learned to listen. Surrender, then, is the meeting point between the human and the divine. It is the mind yielding to the wisdom of the heart. It is the release that turns tension into magnetism. When you stop pushing the river and become the riverbank, life flows through you, not against you. Today, the invitation is both simple and profound. Breathe, release control, and declare inwardly, I release effort and choose alignment. Say it with your body, not with your mouth. And then watch. The world will begin to reorganize itself, not because you forced it, but because you finally became compatible with what has always been yours by vibrational right, the natural flow of life.